Hi, I'm Bob Junkie, and I'd like to welcome you to today's video about visionary selling, the new strategy to help sales executives better empower their team for even more successful B2B sales. Our objective will be to profile the two types of buyers that now dominate the B2B world and the strategy that needs to be followed so your sales team can become what we call visionary sellers who are highly capable of selling successfully to both. Following a brief introduction to us, we'll provide you with the model that shows how B2B buyers buy. Then, using that model, we'll show you the two different categories of buyers that have emerged based on their distinctly different buying needs, along with the resulting distinctly different relationships these two types of buyers need to have with sellers. We'll finish by outlining the new sales strategy to empower your sellers to successfully sell to both. By way of introduction, I'm the founder and CEO of Adventes. We're a global sales management consulting company that started in 2001. Since then, we've had strong and steady growth to the point where we now have over 700 clients. I'm also the author of our best-selling book. And our objective is to help our clients create the high-performance sales environment. We do that through two means. One is our holistic sales and sales management methodology, Adventes Methods, and the second is our comprehensive Salesforce-based application, the Adventes Sales Management System. So here's a summary view of the model. Note that the y-axis defines the buyer's level of concerns for key things like the solution, value, and risk, while the x-axis represents the time for the buy cycle. Also note that buyers buy in 5 stages. In stage 1, although the buyers recognize they have an issue, at that point in time they don't work to resolve it. And there are numerous reasons why this might occur, but that's the subject of another webinar. In stage 2, the buyers analyze their problem and develop a solution. Then in stage 3, the buyers determine the return they can expect if they proceed and likely develop an implementation plan. Stage 4 is dominated by risk. If the buyer is confident that they have found a provider that will fulfill their vision and do it at their desired ROI, then they'll probably move forward. Finally, in stage 5, the buyer's attentions turn to the actual implementation. With that model in mind, let's identify the two categories of buyer. We'll refer to the first as seller-educated buyers. In the past, this was the dominant buyer type, and as you'll see, it still comprises a very large portion of B2B buyers. And although these buyers certainly understood their business, they generally did not understand how our solutions could help. This meant that we found a buyer's pain and turned it into the vision of a solution, then proved our capabilities. We then helped them determine the anticipated ROI, and if we did a great job, we were able to mitigate their risk and they moved forward with us. The sales process I just described was originally pioneered by solution selling. We call these buyers seller-educated buyers because they need to work with a salesperson whom they generally depend on very early on in the buying process to help them better understand their needs. However, there's emerged another category of B2B buyer whom we call the internet-educated buyer because, and this is primarily due to the information readily available on the internet and through social media, they educate themselves to the point where they go through the 3 most important stages of their decision-making process without a salesperson. In this case, the Challenger organization originally pioneered selling to those buyers. Very importantly, and I can't emphasize this enough, this results in each category of buyer desiring a very different relationship with a seller. Depending on the study you read, approximately 45% of today's B2B buyers are the seller-educated buyers. The relationship, or reliance, they have on a salesperson is that the salesperson must be able to help them better understand their problem and to envision a solution to it. The other category then is the 55% of internet-educated buyers. In particular, they already have a vision of a solution, so the seller's objective in this case is to help them make that vision even better. Now let's talk about internet-educated buyers for just a moment, because you may ask, well, why on earth would these buyers even entertain having a relationship with a seller? Here's the very important key that we've discovered. What we found is that if they view a seller as being a thought leader who's capable of adding value by empowering them to confidently and boldly take their business to new heights, then they will want to have a relationship with that seller. So now there's visionary selling, which helps salespeople effectively sell to both categories of buyer. The overall approach is to first determine which category a targeted buyer is in, and there are very definitive ways to do this. And if you determine that you're dealing with a buyer in the seller-educated category, you then follow those processes. On the other hand, if you determine that you're dealing with a buyer in the internet-educated category, you then follow those processes. So let me give you a window into the significant differences in approach needed to sell to each category of buyer. To do that, let's look at the major steps in a sales process, then demonstrate the approach a seller should take with each buyer. The steps include first determining the category your targeted buyer is in. This leads to prospecting and lead generation, which then leads to the sales call. The main components of the sales call include the call introduction, followed by solution development, followed by determining the impact on others, which is important to in turn determine who your buying committee will be. The last major step then is execution of the sales cycle leading to a buy decision. Let's apply this now to the approach sellers should take with seller-educated buyers. We generate leads by getting these buyers to agree to appointments, essentially by asking them, would you like to understand how we've helped other people in your industry with your job title solve a high probability problem? Let's focus on the sales call and the first component, the call introduction. Here, sellers typically have not yet convinced buyers that they can competently help them solve problems, so that is in fact the purpose of the call introduction. Assuming we've done that, we then get the buyer to admit their problem or pain and turn it into a vision of a solution. We next determine how our buyer's problem impacts others to subsequently gain access to them. That then leads to the sales cycle, where sellers should discuss and come to agreement with their buyer on a logical sequence of events leading to a buy decision. This stands in stark contrast to the approach sellers should take with internet-educated buyers. Now, when it comes to prospecting and lead generation, you should use social selling to establish yourself as a thought leader with your targeted buyers. And as you're doing that, you should use what we call a vision value tool. This tool was specifically designed to aid visionary sellers throughout the sales cycle. At this point, though, it helps secure the appointment. Then, when it comes to the call introduction, a walk through the vision value tool will demonstrate that the visionary seller has a high level of competency. It also opens the door to solution development, where, using the vision value tool, the visionary seller both extends the buyer's current vision and shows them how to take their business to new heights. But now, to identify the impact on others, the visionary seller should use another tool called an impact tree. The impact tree shows the buyer your view of the interdependence of the critical issues across their organization. The impact tree will set the stage for you to gain access to those buyers and better manage them as a buying committee. That then leads to the sales cycle, where here you should come prepared with a sequence of events leading to a buy decision. So there's a high-level view of how visionary selling will provide you with the winning strategy for successfully selling to today's buyers. In summary, we now have two distinct categories of buyers that dominate the B2B buying community. And to successfully sell to each requires visionary sellers who first identify which category their targeted buyer is in and then successfully execute the appropriate sales processes. So I hope you found our video to be beneficial. If you'd like to discuss this further, or better understand how to convert your team to visionary selling, just let us know. Here's our contact information, and thanks for joining us today.